September the 26th, 2025. Guys, you're looking at satellite imaging over the U.S. I have it paused just a moment. And this is not heat that you're looking at in the center of the nation. This is extremely dry air. I have this on lower level water vapor. And it's beautiful here in Mississippi. It's like the first day of fall. Sunny, wind through the dry leaves. We've had a couple of days of rain at 73 degrees. Can you believe that? But that's because of this dry, cooler air. Now it's pushing the weather off to the East Coast. Guys, and what's happening? Here is the storm that we're concerned about. In the video we did last night, we've been watching a couple weeks, the systems. Nothing coming close until now. And it's getting now to where we really got to pay attention to this, because we're going to be getting impacts by Monday and Tuesday along the East Coast. You're going to really start to notice things. Let's play this forward. But again, this is the storm. Back here behind it, we're going to widen this thing out, is the other storm that is going to be affecting this one. But you notice this pressure zone here and the storm system that's offshore. Let's play this thing forward. And this is going to be the system we're dealing with. And this is that push of cooler, drier air. And guys, when you get these storms out of your way, this is what you can expect. And it's like, again, the first day of fall. It's wonderful. Thank you, Jesus. And we've got through, looks like the worst part of another summer. Here is a wide Atlantic look, guys. Again, here's the storm we're concerned about here in the U.S. You're starting to see it start to wind up, and it looks like it's going to become very powerful on the models. We'll get there in a moment. Here is the second storm we've been watching. It's about to start to pull out. What it's going to do is combine in this dry air and in this system here, start to pull, and that's going to create like a vacuum effect almost on the second storm. So there's going to be a battle up in this area of which way this storm goes, and that's going to be critical to us in the U.S. Let's take a look at the visible images. You still got some activity coming off the African coast here, guys, but when you start seeing this cool air, this fall air start to push out, that's a good sign for us, because it's really going to slow down some activity. But we needed these three storms that have been out in the Atlantic to help cool off the surface of this side of the planet. Here's the secondary storm there. You can see a very good eye. It's supposed to be, I haven't checked yet, or getting into a Cat 4 status. Here is the first one moving out. Again, this thing could loop back down if it gets caught up in this high pressure above it and push right into the Straits of Gibraltar. Very unusual storm. One model even has it coming down and turning back. Of course, it'll be weakened by then very much. Now, this is a close-up satellite image over Haiti and Dominican Republic right here. Here is the storm that's going to be in the tug of war between the one we're watching here. And it's starting to get some rotation in this section right here. As soon as this thing pulls away from the islands, which some are mountainous, which slows down a storm, the southern Bahamas right in here, guys, they're not nearly as big as these islands. So the storm is going to start to wrap up pretty soon. Possibly this afternoon, we're going to start seeing some major changes. The indicators are there now that we have two very strong storms happening. Now, quick look at the National Hurricane Center down in Miami. This came out at 2:46 a.m. Eastern time, guys. So a couple of hours ago. Here's what we got. 90% chance of development. Again, this storm is right here, about to get into the southern Bahamas. Humberto is at 90 miles an hour, but if we click on that, you'll see, let me pull it up. It's going to become probably a major hurricane and maybe up to a 4 here, and be right in the section that's going to be critical by 8 o'clock in the morning Tuesday. Now, tomorrow's Saturday, so you got Sunday. Now, this is not the storm that's critical to the U.S. as far as impact, just the effect on our storm that's over the Haiti and Dominican Republic right now. But Bermuda, you may get hit, depending on which model happens. You're going to get hit by this storm with a major impact, because you're going to be in the northeast quadrant. Now, if this storm in this area is strong enough to pull out the storm that's over, again, Haiti, then it's going to be pulled right across Bermuda also. So you guys in that area and shipping interests in this area, pay very close attention, because it looks like, if it depends, if the models allow the storm over Haiti to move into the southeast, which many of them are. Now, guys, this is post-tropical cyclone Gabriel, the first one that came through. And you realize what it's doing? Look at this. Never seen it before. It's going to be a tropical storm through here, and then a depression by the time it gets into the mouth of the Gibraltar Straits here, going into the Mediterranean, pulling back down. And some of the models extended even further around. That's why I'm saying our Earth is tilted forward. That has because the angle of the sun where it hits the Earth and the heat factor, that brings that basically the heat equator or the intercontinental convergence zone north. And that's why we're seeing more of the storms curl back into the Atlantic, and we're continuing to move north. I think they haven't mentioned it since last year, but I went back and looked back a few years. They said last year it moved 151 miles north up through into Africa. But I went back a few years and looked at where the hurricanes were coming off, and it's moved about 350 miles it's less than 10 years. So I think it's accelerated, and that's what we're starting to see, a little bit of wobble, a little bit of change. Now let's go back here. And we got a 90% chance of cyclone formation in the next 7 days, and it's not going to take that long. By the 30th, guys, again, what's that, Tuesday? This thing's going to be all on top of the southeast coast. It says showers and thunderstorms continue to show signs of organization in association with a tropical wave located near Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and eastern Cuba. An area of low pressure is expected to form along the wave by tonight when it moves near the southeast Bahamas. This low is expected to become a tropical depression when it is in the vicinity of the central and northwest Bahamas over the weekend, and then track northwestward or northward over the southwestern Atlantic. Regardless of development, heavy rains and gusty winds are ongoing in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, the Turks, and the Caicos Islands, and are likely to spread across the Bahamas and eastern Cuba during the next 2 days. Interest in all of these should monitor the progress of the system while there remains considerable uncertainty, in the long-range track and intensity of the system. There's a significant risk of wind, rainfall, and storm surge impacts for portions of the southeast U.S. coast early next week. Interest in the area should also monitor the progress of this system, and that's exactly what we're doing. Now, this just came out about 19 minutes ago, and this is the storm that we're tracking. It's right here in this area. The first turn is showing by the Navy right here, and that's showing that the storm out here is going to be strong enough to start pulling the third storm this way, guys. Then the Canadian model allows it to get much closer to South Carolina and Georgia, and then it pulls it. But there's a lot of models that are very well done, especially the European model, that are showing a completely different aspect. And because of the close proximity, even if it gets up into this area where the CMC is showing it, you're almost parallel with Bermuda at that point. And that would be just the center of the storm. So when we're going to look at the moving models too, but again, you've got everything else coming into basically South Carolina, and a couple of the models we're going to look at, and this one actually shows it right there. It's called the TVCA, looping in and coming into Georgia. See that? And some models are indicating that also. And because this storm Umberto is going to affect the one we're watching, notice that this M changes to, it's still an M, but it goes from a 3 to a 4. Look at that. Slowing down once it gets up a little further north. Wednesday at 8 a.m. 105, and it's northeast or northwest of Bermuda at that point. But this strength that we're dealing with, guys, is going to be pushing, and actually you're going to have storm surge warnings from both storms up. So it's going to be a few days of very agitated tides, rip currents, things like that. But a 4 is a very powerful storm, and really it's because we have not had that many this year, and this is a blessing in many ways, because we talked about it last night. If we don't get some cooling, it's going to change the moisture in the winter, make it much worse, and then summer's going to be very hot. Now let's take a look at the Navy model first. They're very accurate, but this thing is going to be a close call on this one. Look at how powerful this storm gets, guys. You see the purple in there? That's telling you how low you're dropping in barometric pressure. The lower, the more powerful the storm. This one, both storms are about the same intensity, but the storm here, the third storm, is larger than this one. Again, Bermuda gets pounded both times, possibly by Cat 3s, and it may be even stronger, but look at that. Now notice how close it comes to shore here. Coming over the Bahamas, right there, just very close to South Carolina. But let's look at the other models. And the other model that pulled it out, but much further north, was the Canadian model we're looking at now. Now watch this. High pressure stops it right there, pushes it back up towards the northeast coast. You see that? The weather's getting kind of wild, but this is a phenomenon that we've seen with hurricanes before. They get so close together, they start either dancing around each other or pulling and tugging on each other. But this one would keep moisture along the northeast coast for quite a while. And again, this is a Canadian model, very reliable. Both storms getting strong. Then the high pressure builds back over, and that is coming from this cooler, dry air. And pushes through. Now let's take a look at the GFS model. A little different scenario here, and this is what they're concerned about. Now GFS is very accurate in the first 4 or 5 days of its actual modeling, but because it goes out in time in further days, then it's less accurate there. But this is not far out in time, and a very good system. And look at all the high pressure system, the dry air and high pressure. That's the kind I like. Setting up. But if you notice at the end of the run along October the 12th, we've almost got an identical twin system setting up. But again, that's long term, and we'll be concerned about that when it's time. But you'll see setting up right here in the last few frames. Right there and right there. See that? That's on October 12th. Now this is the WRF model, which is called the Weather and Research Forecast model, guys. And it doesn't go out as far, but notice the strength of the storm and how close it is to the southeastern coast of Florida here. And everything stops right there, and they're both almost parallel, not quite, but very strong. See how dark that is in the center? You've got, and this is what's going to be guiding it, the strength of this storm and the strength of this high pressure, this beautiful weather that we're seeing right now over central Mississippi. So guys, we got them going both ways on the models. It's not time to let your guard down. If you live along the Florida coast or anywhere between there and Virginia, or at least the Outer Banks of North Carolina, make sure you got extra fuel. And if you see these getting closer in the next few days, as we start to cover it now until it's gone, because it's getting serious, then fuel for your car. And if it looks like you're going to be at an impact point, you really wouldn't want to be there. Not with a storm this size, okay? We were very lucky during Aaron, but you still saw the damage and the flooding, especially along the Outer Banks. Anyway, guys, we're watching this. There's a lot going on. Comey's having to turn himself in today. I think the indictment is October 12th, so I guess he'll turn himself in, possibly bond out. And he doesn't deserve that. He deserves what he did to Roger Stone and what he did to Trump and many other people. Daylight raids, full SWAT teams, pulling him into jail. But now they're allowing him to, I guess, fly back from California and turn himself in, I think, to Virginia. Now, within minutes, last night, after the FBI and DOJ announced the indictment of Comey, his son-in-law, his daughter's son, resigned from the FBI. He should have been kicked out immediately when Trump came in, but he resigned. But the thing I'm not real crazy about is the judge that's going to oversee the case is a Biden appointed, and you know that's not cool. But I think they're going to, if they see any shenanigans, the DOJ lawyers that we have, they're going to shut that judge down real quick. It won't last long. Anyway, guys, we're watching a lot of things, and I know you are too. It's a heads up. Be safe.